Hello, and welcome back. So I got to tell you something. Apps, the first episode I did, I think within 24 hours of publishing it, I lost my voice. I just couldn't speak anymore. As you can hear right now, I have this kind of like little sexy, smoky thing going on. This is my voice recovery, but I couldn't speak. It just sounded like, when I tried to speak, it sounded like the brakes on an old bicycle. You know the bikes you get when you go to the Whale Tops and the Ban auntie gives you one of her son's old shite bikes to cycle to school on? That's what my bike sound. That's what my voice sounded like. Um, that's very interesting. I was trying to figure it out energetically. I was like, is this some curse? Is this Balor of the evil eye who's interrupted my vocal cords? Is it some old Ulster Scots genes inside my body that are sabotaging my capacity to speak to all the trauma on this island? Regardless, it hasn't stopped me. I'm back. And I'm back with what will probably be one of the hardest episodes to do. Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves. This is Healing from Irishness, and today's episode is called Shame Bingo. Okay, hello. Just a little bit of housekeeping, isn't that what they say at the start? I've had a few people kind of write in saying, "Hey, get me on. We'll talk about this together," or "Get me on. We'll talk about this together." This isn't going to be like a chat podcast. This is really, guys. I have a lot of shite inside of me that I want to say. And I think if I got somebody else in here to have a conversation with them, I think I would just be rude. The person would just walk away going, God, that Connor didn't let me get a word in edgeways. So no, it's me talking into the microphone and getting some of this stuff out. In the future, potentially I could be into the chat thing, but the chat thing, God, there's so much logistics as well. You got to email the person. Are you available at this time? Or will you send me the Zoom link? Oh, that link didn't work. And um, no. Hell is other people. So I'm going to be doing this podcast on my own for a little while. Also, just wanted to say thank you so much. I've had like so many lovely messages from people, messages from all over. And beautiful. Thank you for the encouragement, because it wasn't easy deciding to do this. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to face some demons. I'm going to have to face a lot of the imposter syndrome demons and so on and so forth. And I'm going to have to face the shame demons. And that's what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about shame. Also, just another little thing. If you hear any kind of whimpering or squealing or even like a little yelp, that's not me. That's the dog that's on my lap as I'm trying to do this podcast. He won't be anywhere but on my lap for some reason. I don't know. But anyway, I shall persist. And if you hear those noises, that's not my subconsciousness trying to erupt. It's just a little pup on my lap. So I think a good place to begin with understanding shame is to differentiate it from guilt. Because for us, for Irish people, we're so kind of up to our eyeballs in both things that I think it can be hard for us to really recognize which is which. It's good to call the apples apples and the pears pears. So guilt is really, I've done something bad. I wish I hadn't done that. Oh no, I feel terrible. Right? Guilt is very much, it's connected to an action. I went up to that person and said, "Oh, congratulations." And then I realized that they weren't pregnant and I feel guilty. That was bad. Or I missed Christmas, and now I feel guilty. Guilt is like you've done something, you feel bad about it. With guilt, there's a kind of an easy workaround. You can sort of just accept, okay, I did something bad. I'm not perfect. It's fine. You can apologize. You can make up for it. Guilt can be worked with. Jesus Christ, shame. There's nothing can be done for shame. There's no hope there at all. So shame is the feeling, this kind of belief. It's a self-concept, guys. It's a self-concept that we carry with us. And the concept is there's something wrong with me. Notice the difference. It's not I did something wrong. It's I am wrong. There is something wrong with me. And with shame, there's no workaround. You can't live with shame. You can kind of live with guilt. We all live with a whole lot of guilt, and we find our workarounds. We apologize. We try and compensate. But with shame, there isn't a workaround. You are wrong. Everything about you will remind you that you are wrong. You are deficient. It's irredeemable. And so you will move through your whole life with this self-concept that there is something wrong with me. It's a little bit like you've started the race with a huge handicap. So how do we have all this shame? Because Irish people have a lot of shame. We carry so much shame. Where does it all come from? I think you could lay a lot of it at the kind of hands of colonialism. Of course, we can blame the Brits for so much of this. You think about it, like when you think about the whole fantastic colonial complex, when you think about the process of colonialism, it begins. First, they take out your defenses. Then they plunder your resources. Then they destroy your culture. And the last step is they get inside your head and they dismantle your capacity to have a normal self-esteem. That's the kind of the final coup de grace of colonialism, is they get to this point where long since the colonial ships and the flags no longer fly, your self-belief is still colonized. You've got the Brits out of the land, but they're not quite out of your psyche. And how this kind of reaches us, because of course, like we all grew up, you're listening to this, we grew up in this century, we grew up in an independent Ireland mostly, and I'm talking to my southern comrades here, to my pals in the north. Yes, there's still an occupation going on there. But what happened is that it got into our families. The reason that we have this feeling that there's something wrong with us is because we didn't get the correct attunement from our parents. This comes through the bloodline. When you are a child and when you have moments with your parents where you feel like you are the apple of their eye, you feel like you are loved unconditionally, you don't carry shame. It neutralizes shame. Love neutralizes shame. So what happens to us, and this is again, like please don't put down this podcast and call up your parents to rant at them. But what happened is that like our parents were so caught up in the nervous system of their parents, and our grandparents were caught up in the nervous system of their great-grandparents. And so there's this huge patterns, these huge waves of fear and scarcity and anxiety. You know it, you recognize it, you see it in your relatives, you see it in the older generations. But we grew up in that fog of insecurity and anxiety. Do you think you can really love someone when you are terrified out of your wits? Do you think you can really be present when you are so scared of all the worst things happening? And this is the energy that so many of us grew up into. This is sort of what we encountered when we incarnated into life. We found parents who were rattled with stress and disconnected from presence. And so, as babies, because this is how babies operate in the world, babies arrive into the world and they think everything is a reflection of them. Everything is connected to them. Everything becomes personal. At a kind of a larger Buddhist sense, this is true. But at a small child with that low development sense, it's too much to handle. So what happens is they just perceive all the dysfunction as their fault. As a baby, you look on your stressed out parents and you go, I made this happen. And that is the first injection of shame. There's plenty more in those early developmental years as we watch our parents move through different things, as their attention is taken away from us, as they're not delighted by every single action of ours. We begin to feel more and more shame. And this shame informs our personalities. So let's look at how shame infiltrates parts of our lives. I think that the first one is to just look at your family. If you've grown up with this sense that you're the problem, if you've grown up with a sense that you're not worthy of love, then you're going to prioritize your family's needs over your own. You ever wonder why we sometimes have a little bit of this conservatism in Ireland? Why sometimes we can feel a little bit like we're not quite at the pace of other countries in terms of just social tastes, and especially when you start to look at like the Irish diaspora in America or a place like that where they're even more conservative. Well, that in my opinion is a result of shame. Shame really limits your capacity to go against your family's teachings. Because if you've grown up with this idea that you're the problem, if you've grown up with the idea that everything that's affecting your family's sadness, their anxiety, their nerves, their anger is all as a result of you, then you're never going to rock the boat. You're always just going to toe the family line. So you will end up making decisions that will please them rather than please you. This is so tragic. Do you know that the deep sadness at the heart of so many Irish people is because their decision making is not coming from an authentic place. Their decision making is coming from this place of what will they think? What will mum and dad think? What will my family think? And so we end up making these horrible choices from this place of shame. And these choices can be connected to just like, well, I'm not going to go traveling because mom will miss me, or I'm not going to go take this job because dad will be disappointed, or even though this person seems great and loving, I know that like my parents aren't going to approve. So I'm not going to follow my heart. Instead, I'll follow their desires. So all what this does is this, again, this thing with shame. Shame disconnects you from yourself. It disconnects you from your own desires. It's so horrible. It's so horrible. It's this feeling, this concept that there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me, so I have to do everything in my power to avoid that being discovered. I must compensate my entire life. There's nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're perfect. Shame also kind of connects us into like the workplace in many ways. This is why so many of us, we always talk about how like, I mean, I don't know, like in my time, I remember like going over to work in the States and that when I was 19 or 20 and was working over in Long Island in bars and restaurants and things like this. And as Irish people, we had this great reputation and for being great workers. I mean, we were kind of piss artists as well, do you know what I mean? And we took the mick, but we had this great reputation. People would be like, oh, I'll hire Irish people, And there's something beautiful about that. Like we take that, like a lot of us feel like, oh, how noble that we go and we work. But what I experience in my coaching work and talking to a lot of Irish people all the time is that the reason we have this reputation for being such hard workers is that we have no boundaries. We will always go the extra mile. We will go to work sick. We'll put in extra time. We will happily deprioritize personal pleasure, hobbies, things like this just to work, you know? And the only reason a person would do that is if they felt there was something wrong with them, is if they felt, I'm not like everybody else. I'm inferior. I'm inferior, so I must do more. That's the message of shame. That's how it filters into the workplace. The Irish, we were fucking made for capitalism because capitalism also presents this idea that you have to do more. You must grow. You're not enough. You're not enough. And the Irish have been conditioned with this deep, deep sense that you're not enough. So this is why we do more and more and more. The other area where it trickles into this poisonous shame is relationships. If you feel lots of shame, then we're never going to be able to receive love, you know? Because if you don't feel that you're deserving of love, if you feel that there's something less than in you, then you're not going to let love in. And you're not going to attract love. You know, like our whole relationship thing, this is how it works, is that what you call into your life is a reflection of your own relationship with yourself. You know, the people in our lives, the people who we invite into our lives to love or abuse us, are just a reflection of our own internal relationship. If you truly love yourself, if you truly, truly love, care, and respect for yourself, you won't be surrounded by people who would do anything but love you back. So with us, with our shame, what we have this tendency to do is we have this tendency to attract people who don't treat us well. We have a tendency to attract people who are very problematic. We love a problematic person, maybe someone with an addiction, maybe someone difficult. Why? Because if this person appears so difficult, if this person or person if it appears so problematic, then maybe nobody's going to notice our defect. This is it. Like the strategy of shame is there's something wrong with me. There's something irredeemable about me. So if I can present myself as the hardest working, best son, best daughter, and if my partner can be permanently sick or an alcoholic or problematic, then nobody is going to see my faults. Nobody is going to see the real me hidden beneath all my good works and all my efforts to be good. So, shame. The thing with shame is it'll always find a way. Now, I know, for example, a big part of shame that I grew up with was this shame of like, oh, I come from a poor family, I don't have great education. And I thought, okay, the minute I publish a book, that shame will disappear. It didn't. The shame didn't go anywhere. It just found another outlet. It then crept into like, oh, the way you speak or the way you do this. So the shame will always find a way. It mutates. It's like this mad hyper virus that will always find a new way to infect you. So and how it infects you, how it works on you is that it isolates you because the shame becomes this secret. Isn't shame so creepy? Isn't it just so nasty? Because what the thing that you're ashamed of is the thing that you're most afraid that people will discover. So you keep it secret. You isolate it. I remember being a kid growing up and being like so ashamed of my teeth. Just thinking, Jesus, I have the worst fucking teeth in the world. So I would speak with my, I'm doing it messy, you won't hear me. I would speak with my lips touching so nobody could see my teeth. When I smiled, I would smile with my mouth closed just out of fear of my crooked teeth being shown. And I remember like as a teenager and getting older and some of my first relationships and people saying to me, wow, I think your teeth are really nice. I love how they're crooked and things like this. And me going, I can't trust these people. They're lying. This isn't true. And then I remember seeing pictures of Anthony Kiedis. Remember him, he hasn't gone anywhere, but in the Red Hot Chili Peppers with his broken teeth and thinking, oh, you can have broken teeth and look okay. It can be done. So the point that I'm making is that your shame will try to keep you small. So the only way to emerge from the shame will try to keep you secret. The only way to emerge, the only way to relinquish, the only way to destroy and banish shame is to announce it to the world. So, without further ado, this is a little game I've developed, and it's my form of announcing shame to the world, and I'm going to call it Shame Bingo. So, if you're listening in, you can do this game with me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to list some of the things that I have felt ashamed of in my life. And if you too have felt ashamed of them, you can just say the word bingo. And in that way, we'll create magic together by exposing the secret, by exposing the thing that we felt ashamed about, and then releasing its power over us. The first one, let me begin. My skin. I have felt so ashamed of the color of my skin. I remember like being a teenager and going to British Bay and on the beach in summer. It would have been August, like lovely day, 20 degrees. You know, the wind that rips in across British Bays, like spitting sand in your face. And been there with a load of other boys. I think we were in a camp or something. And I was afraid to take my t-shirt off. Even though we were all as pale as fuck, even though like I was surrounded by a group of guys who were as white and pasty and ginger as me, I still felt like I can't show off this skin. I remember then for years, like when I first moved abroad and stuff, when I was like living in Spain and living in Germany and places like that, and the summers were hot, but I would still wear jeans because I felt ashamed of the color of my legs, my big, pasty Irish legs. I thought, God, they look terrible. I'm going to blind people in the streets, especially if I'm going by quickly on a bicycle. So I felt ashamed of these things. And then what's interesting, you know, is how the shame just will find its way into other areas. I remember then, like, you know, getting into sports later in life. And suddenly for the first time in my life, like kind of, because I didn't do sports as a kid so much, but I started to do a lot of sports. I started to rock climb a lot in my late 20s. And if you rock climb, because it's, you know, it's climbing, you're moving all parts of your body, you just develop muscles. So I became kind of ripped. And I remember seeing photos of myself and feeling ashamed in these photographs. And I felt ashamed because I thought, shit, I look too muscular. I look too good. This isn't good. People are going to think I really love myself. I remember this even extended. I was on the front cover of the Irish Independent Life magazine, and the photos emerged. I was styled. They used clothes from, I can't remember the name of the shop, but like this quite a nice designer store with all like these like great clothes that I was wearing for the day. And I looked really good. And I remember when the photos emerged, just thinking, oh shit, this is bad news. I was like, why is this bad news? And it's bad news because I look too good. This could expose me. I could get in trouble here. So again, look at this, the shame. We're damned if you do, we're damned if we don't. My voice. For so many years, I felt ashamed of my voice. And it's because my voice has always been a little bit of a kind of a place of jeopardy for me. Like, first off, you know, my mother was very wouldn't allow us to speak like the people around us. So do you know what I mean? Like where I was growing up, there would be a lot of doesbies and doobies and tick and tree and, you know, collapsing your THs like that. But my mum was always very much about like, no, we don't want to speak that way. You're going to speak properly. And my grandmother in particular, she was very she was very particular about how we presented ourselves. So I often had conflict about my voice. And then I remember going to school, and in the school that I went to, all the boys there spoke a kind of a slang. We spoke this like the traveller speak, the gammon it was called, you know, where someone was a fiend, someone was a bior, you know, things were rullia, things were munya. And I learned the language quickly because I had to adapt. And I became great at it. But then I would find that in other places, speaking this way with this big, thick, clear voice, it it isolated me again. And I remember when I first went to, I studied for a little while up in UCD and had suddenly been dropped into South County Dublin culture. And me coming out with me munyas and me rullias and me fiend and me bior and feek and a golly and all this sort of stuff, like it wasn't good. It wasn't a good look. Um, so I switched again and developed a kind of a flatter, more Dublin accent. And so I've always had a conflict around my voice. So of course, the way for me to work with that is to announce it to the world. The way for me to kind of banish that is to like become a meditation teacher. Like so much of my voice, so much of the my voice now is just on recordings. It's out there, and people write to me all the time saying, "Oh, I fell asleep listening to your voice, or your voice helped me through this," and so on and so forth. So the shame is nowhere to stick if you just own the thing that you're ashamed of. Like this is the courageous work that we do. It's about being who you are. Don't give the shame anywhere to land. I've also had a lot of shame around receiving praise. I felt like I've had moments and it's been, in particular, it was difficult with like the last couple of books that I released because there was just moments where people would run up to me in the street and say, your book was incredible, it changed my life, or, something like this. And my response in moments like that was to, my whole body would just shiver and cringe with this horrible sense of, please don't say these things. And that's the shame again. The shame will always try and find a way to turn good things bad. I can remember as well when I went to secondary school, and I think it was the first time I'd ever had a test. We did a test on history. It just so happened that I liked history. I enjoyed reading. And in the test, I got 100%. And I remember feeling so ashamed that I got 100%. And again, look at this, how the shame turns a good thing bad. And then on the other side, a couple of years later, I got dropped into foundation maths. I just couldn't do maths. It was so difficult for me. It didn't work for me. And the shame of being in foundation maths, the shame of like where I had fallen to, in my opinion. So again, when we try and counter the shame, when we try and like fix the shame in at a material sense, like if you've got crooked teeth and you're ashamed of your crooked teeth and you go and you spend all these thousands on orthodontistry, it will fix the shame regarding your teeth, but it won't fix the shame in general because the shame will find another way. The real way to fix the shame is to love your crooked teeth. The real way to work with the shame is to just be who you are in front of other people. All of our shame is just connected to our relationship with others. In particular, it's connected to our relationship with other Irish people. I left Ireland when I was quite young, and I've often left Ireland. I've lived half of my life outside of Ireland. And part of the reason that I've done that is because the shame was less active around non-Irish people. But the shame, when I would kind of be amongst Irish people, would increase, would enhance, because I would realize, oh, these people know me. These people really know my secrets. It's the closeness of our community. It's the kind of the telepathic nature of our coexistence, our co-creative capacities. We can sense. I know when I'm home, I can smell trauma of people. I think we all can. You can feel it. We're a highly empathetic people. And so our shame magnifies, amplifies when we're amongst each other. So this is the cure. Be who you are in front of people. It's terrifying. I know. It takes huge courage. This podcast is an act of courage. As you're listening now, maybe you can also identify, where am I not being who I am in front of other people? Because really, what it comes down to, guys, is that we are energy. That's all we are at a kind of at a deep level, when your perception is clear, when your mind is focused, when you begin to understand the body at an atomic level, all we are is energy. And our energy has two options. It can contract and it can expand. The purpose of your life is to expand. The way we expand is we be who we are in front of other people. The way we contract is we believe in the shame. We listen to the shame and we go, oh, I'll be small. I will be who they want me to be. No, you have to be who you are. And then when you do this, when you be that, when you do be doing that, when you are who you are in front of other people, you get the opportunity to let people love you. And they love you for who you actually are. We spend so much of our life in this shadowy realm trying to trick people into loving us, fool people into loving us. I will be the kindest partner. I will do everything for my mother. I will be the friend who never says no, even when I'm knackered. And in this way, we're manipulating people into loving us. That's what shame will do. But the courageous way forward is to be who you are authentically. Be who you are 100%, and then see who loves you. And all I can say is that the people who love you there, they're never going to go anywhere. It's a beautiful love. And it's the love you deserve. I think so many of us Irish people, we've never really encountered love. We've never really allowed love in. And the only way you can allow love in is to just really be who you authentically are. That's the door. Be who you are and then allow love in. And then that is the cure to all the shame. So that's it. Shame bingo. Thanks for listening. If you like listening to me, I do sessions. I'm a coach. You can book sessions with me and we can have a chat about this. You can get that on my website, connorcrichton.com. I have a community too. It's a Patreon group where we meet and we basically go through the process of liberating ourselves together. That's really nice. You can join that as well if you want more support. And that's it. This podcast is going to keep coming out. It's not going to have much routine to it or regularity, but when the energies are right, I'll press record. Thank you for listening. It's beautiful to read your comments and your messages. And yeah, if you feel like sharing beneath this, please do. Love yous all. I really do. Thank you for your support. Grow more. Bye-bye.